Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Friday, May 14th. Tonight we have one agenda item. We are immediately going to go into executive session, then we will return into open session later on. So I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session, not to return to open session for purposes of conducting a strategy session in preparation for contract negotiations for non-union personnel, specifically all new non-union contract employees overseen by the Board of Selectmen, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, specifically all unions overseen by the Board of Selectmen. Since, in my opinion, as chair, negotiating in open session would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And those in favor, roll call.
Anderson, yes.
Graves, yes.
And Kinahan, yes. We are now in executive session. Good evening. Welcome back to open session. The board just met in executive session to discuss, as stated earlier, to discuss union and non-union personnel in the direction of the Board of Selectmen. David is going to read a memo that he had written to the board earlier.
In May of 2020, it became apparent that the onslaught of COVID-19 was beginning to have a financial impact on the town's revenues. Many businesses were forced to close. The lack of revenue from meals tax, growth from new construction, and the loss of revenue would become noticeable. The board, being the Board of Selectmen, decided to take a leadership position on this and to be proactive rather than reactive. The board directed me to begin the process of asking all our employees to take a 0% COLA raise for FY 2022. I began the process of engaging our employees, your employees. Additionally, I interacted with the separately elected boards such as Water Commissions, Library, Board of Health, and Assessors. And they all understood and passed the request on to their employees. Even though most of those department heads were under contract for FY 2022, they agreed to take a 0%, and it should be noted that not a single person said no. Ms. Reyes, as chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I met with members of the school committee. It is my understanding that exclusive of those employees that fall under the teacher's contract, the school employees also agreed to a 0% COLA raise. For example, I am aware that the school superintendent, who is also under contract, due a raise, voluntarily amended his contract to accept a 0%. I led by example and rewrote my contract to reflect a 0%, and all of your department heads, whether under contract or not, agreed to a 0% raise as well. All 5 unions that fall under the Board of the Selectmen also agreed to the 0. It should be noted that although those unions were not under contract, under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 150E, negotiated raises cannot be forced and must be bargained in good faith, meaning that those unions still had to agree and accept the board's requests. All the unions did. I stand before you tonight saying much appreciation and gratitude should be provided to all of those employees that accepted the 0%, who are willing to sacrifice for the benefit of the town, and many of them who experienced a very tough year due to COVID. In addition, the town unions did not demand other benefits or lucrative side offers in order to accept the 0. The fact is that their new contracts are minimalistic at best. In contrast, the teachers' union stood firm and is elected not to open their contract and accept a 0% raise. I can genuinely tell you that no one ever thought that would occur. Every interaction, if all other employees of the to 0, the teachers will do the same, end quote. During all of our negotiations and discussions, it was communicated that if the 0% was not agreed to, that cuts were going to be made in order to save the equivalent amount. The school committee and school administration were aware of these discussions as early as last summer. In order to save the monetary equivalent of the COLA increase, the board and the finance committee reduced the school budget by $222,000. This was not a surprise. The school committee and the school administration always knew that would occur. And due to the cuts, the school superintendent on April 15th had to send out pink slip notices and discuss potential cuts in programs to the school. Over the past week, I have received countless feedback from residents in town that have argued passionately on both sides of this issue. I have never encountered an issue where parents have told me that the board, I mean the Board of Selectmen, have done the wrong thing. But conversely, many other parents tell me the board had done the right thing. It has also come to my attention that a motion will be made at town meeting to move $222,000 from the town stabilization account into the education budget to make up for the shortfall. I have also learned that both sides are attempting to motivate residents to come to town meeting and support their respective side. I have done a lot of soul searching on this issue, and I have envisioned what will happen at town meeting. Scenario 1. Because it requires a 2/3 majority to move money out of stabilization, it is likely that the motion will fail. Residents who vote to block the transfer of these funds will be elated. But honestly, I'm not so sure that's a good thing. School programs will be cut, user fees will increase, teachers will be laid off. And I am positive that nobody in this room wants to see that occur. Scenario 2. The motion to move money into from stabilization passes. While those residents are clapping and feeling good about themselves, how do the 100 or so employees feel that accepted the 0%? They will feel like fools, and it will have a lasting negative impact moving forward. I do not want to watch a town meeting where highly charged criticism is pointed at one person or another. In short, I do not want to see a great town ripped apart. Therefore, I am asking the board to support transferring money from the stabilization account to make up the cut in the school budget. But in addition, support the amount necessary to provide a 2% raise to all employees in the town that are not covered by the teacher's contract. I make this recommendation because I believe it is my job to endeavor for fairness and equity throughout the entire town. Our employees in the town that took a 0 should be commended for all of the hard work they did, but at the same time, willing to take a 0. But if one faction of the town receives a raise while the others do not, that is entirely unfair. They should never be allowed to feel foolish because they were willing to put the interests of the town ahead of themselves. The total amount needed to cover a 2% raise for all town employees not covered in the teacher's contract is approximately $236,000. Because I stated this in executive session, I informed the board that they can only deliberate and vote on my request pertaining to employees that are under your board. And therefore, it is my recommendation to you that if you find that to be acceptable, that I will then ask your public support for the transfer of stabilization funds to the school department, announce your support to provide a 2% raise to all employees not covered by the teacher's contract, and lastly, I would ask the board to disclose that you will make that motion at town meeting.
Thank you, David. Is there such a motion?
Yes, before I make the motion, I want to make sure I recuse myself from the DPW contract. My husband is the assistant director there. But I would like to make a motion to provide a 2% raise to all those employees under our Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction, effective July 1st, 2021, subject to town meeting approval.
Is there a
I'll
second?
make a second with disclosure that I've recused myself from discussions regarding the teacher's salary, anything to do with the teacher's salaries because my daughter works for the school, but I do second the motion for the increase for the town employees, recusing myself from the library discussion, from the library portion.
Thanks, Denise. Is there any further discussion from the board on the motion? Nope. Okay, so we do need a roll call vote.
Anderson, yes.
Raise yes.
And Kinahan, yes. So the motion passes, and I will now read a public release that will be released after this meeting. The Board of Selectmen met in executive session to discuss providing a 2% raise beginning on July 1st, 2021 to all union and non-union employees under the jurisdiction of the board. In addition, in open session, the board is also recommending that all town employees not covered in the teacher's contract be provided a 2% raise effective July 1st, 2021 as well. The purpose of this decision is to provide raises to all employees who had accepted a 0% raise, providing a level of fairness and parity with the teachers union. As chairman, I will make the motion at town meeting to transfer money from the town stabilization account to cover the costs of these raises. In addition, the board would prefer not to see a reduction in services to the school department, and therefore the board will also support a motion from the school department to transfer money from the stabilization account to replenish the amount that had been cut during the budget process. Over the past few years, it has been a priority of the board to build and maintain a well-funded stabilization account. Although the situation we are in is not ideal, we will work to replenish the approximately $458,000 to stabilization in the coming years. Thank you. And that is all on the agenda for today. If there's a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Anderson, yes?
Raise yes.
Kinahan, yes. We are adjourned.